Welcome into this latest edition of the Charleston County Connects podcast. I'm your host, Sean Smetana, and with us, Ben Webster, Interim Director, Charleston County Emergency Management. Ben, thank you. Welcome.
Sean, happy to be here.
All right, so it's hurricane season, and as of recording, July 2nd, we already have our first major hurricane of the season. We always tell people not to really think about the predictions as much because, as the saying goes, it only takes one. How do you deal with the challenge of the predictions of hurricane season when you have a major hurricane this early in the year? What kind of goes through your mind?
Well, we already know it's going to be above active season, and that's through Colorado State University, NOAA, the National Hurricane Center. We know that already, and you already mentioned it only takes one storm to make a historical difference in Charleston County. So we really want to get out to our residents that don't necessarily look at the forecast, don't think about it's going to be an underactive season or an overactive season. Be prepared for that one storm.
Mm-hmm. The other thing we deal with here in Charleston County, there's certainly an influx of people every year. Some have been living in areas that deal with hurricanes, and then a lot of those people haven't. So how do you deal with that education for people that really may not have experienced this in the past?
Right. Well, as you hit, Charleston is a phenomenal place to live. We have a lot of people coming in, but we also have a lot of tourists. We've got to think about that. The first thing that we reference for people is the Charleston County Hurricane Guide, charlestoncounty.org/EM, English and Spanish. And in addition to that, it's the South Carolina Hurricane Guide, hurricane.sc. And what you're going to learn in that is what do you need to have in your preparedness kit? What does your evacuation zone or your evacuation route look like? And it's a step-by-step guide for, you're new to hurricanes, or even if you're experienced with hurricanes, of what should you do during a storm and during the pre-landfall of a storm.
And also what to prepare beforehand. There are very extensive hurricane preparation kits. Let's talk about the basics, though. Realistically, what do people need to have on hand in the event either there is no evacuation order or there is an evacuation order?
Absolutely. So for either one, we want people to have a kit ready to go. We've all been there right before a storm. We try to go to Walmart and you're jabbing elbows with everybody and you're trying to get those non-perishable foods. Let's do that on the front end, right? So refer to the Charleston County Hurricane Guide or the State Hurricane Guide, but water, non-perishables. Don't forget your pets. Have food and water for your pets and places, a crate for them. Medications, important documents. And the best part about this is a lot of the stuff that you need for your hurricane kit, you've already got in your house. Just centralize it into one spot and be ready to go in case you need to evacuate or in case you need to stay at your home during a hurricane.
In years past, we've talked about what people need to be prepared. One of them is cash.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so important for people to have cash on hand in the event they do have to evacuate?
Right. Well, we already know that during a major hurricane that can knock out power and some of our other lifelines. Cash, we know we can pay with cash. So a stash of cash just to be ready in case you need it.
A stash of cash. That's a good tagline. What's the education process throughout the year? It obviously gets hyped up when hurricane season starts, but what are you kind of talking about with people prior to hurricane season?
Yeah, number one is have a plan. Talk to your family members, talk to your friends, decide if there's an evacuation, where are you going to go? Hotels are an option, shelters are an option, but that's the shelter of last resort. We really want people to communicate and have that plan up front. And then going back to that, know your zone. Depending on where you live in Charleston County is going to depend on that evacuation zone. And for 2024, those are actually new zones, new and improved zones. So even if you knew it from years past, take a look at that again. Know your evacuation route. We all use Waze, we all use GPS, but during a storm, those routes are going to be different. So know exactly how you're going to get out from your house to somewhere that's safe. And then again, in general, just to loop back to it, have a conversation with your family and friends on what's it going to look like.
Okay. You mentioned in the event of evacuation, law enforcement, emergency responders will set up evacuation zones and routes based on where you live. In the event there is an evacuation order, which only comes from the governor.
Correct.
If you leave before that evacuation order goes into effect, you can take any route you want, correct?
Correct. So we're going to start to see transportation control points as we evacuate for the storm. But some people decide, you know what? There's a hurricane coming. I'm not comfortable with this. Let me go ahead and get out now. And there's no problem with that at all. They will typically be able to use their own route, but it just depends on what stage we are in that evacuation. It could change.
You mentioned shelters, again, being a shelter of last resort. if you do need to utilize one of those in the event of a hurricane, what do you need to bring with you, understanding that it's very minimal what's provided at the shelters?
Right. So very similar to your hurricane emergency kit. Have some bedding, have your medications. Water and food are typically going to be provided at the shelters. If you go to a pet shelter, which we do have one here in Charleston County, again, shelter of last resort, but make sure you've got adequate crates, food, water for your pet as well to be able to take care of them.
Okay. Ben, you've been doing this for a while in a lot of different roles. Why does somebody get involved in emergency management knowing that there's a good 4, 5, 6 month stretch of your life where you're locked into forecasts?
Right. Well, we're looking at the forecast every morning. We're paying very close attention to the National Hurricane Center. But I think the reason people get into emergency management is just like anybody in government. We want to make a change. We want to make a difference. And for emergency managers, we get to lead this charge from a high level to make sure that all of our resources within the county are talking to each other, they're coordinating, and we've got a unity of effort moving forward. And that we're working with our partners both on the federal level and the state level to make sure we get the best resources to Charleston County for any storm we deal with at the right time.
Okay. You mentioned having partnerships. Well, a lot of people like to partner with social media when we do see storms approaching. What advice do you give people with that? You can read a lot of these forecasts a whole bunch of different ways, and I think it can kind of heighten people's fear in some situations, or maybe they're a little too relaxed. So what advice do you give people?
So social media is great, but it's got to come from the right place, right? National Hurricane Center, South Carolina Emergency Management, Charleston County Emergency Management, Charleston County Department of Public Safety. All of those are reliable sources, as well as the Charleston County government page. But follow those reliable sources. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot of people that want to make a prediction, but it's got to be an educated prediction. So follow those official sources and go by those and make your decision based off of those.
The local media here, though, is another great resource. A lot of these meteorologists have run here for a long time. They've seen these patterns before. So I'm assuming that's another outlet for people to get information.
Absolutely. And we work very closely with our media partners. They're in our Emergency Operations Center. They're getting real-time information. So in addition to social media, local media is going to put out phenomenal information as well. And we need to trust those forecasters as well.
Okay. Anything we didn't cover? Any other caveats for our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, again, the Charleston County Hurricane Guide, charlestoncounty.org/EM, English and Spanish, really give you a detailed view of what do you need to know for hurricanes in South Carolina and specifically Charleston County. But two final things: make sure you have a plan, make sure you stick to that plan, and make sure you have a kit so that you're ready to go.
All right, and we will put a link to the Hurricane Guide in the description of this episode. Mr. Webster, thank you for your time.
Thank you.